That more than ever,
Yeah.
I understand my purpose is walking in these footprints that God's left for me.
And what is your purpose
My
now?
purpose is to be the best version of myself and to teach my culture everything that I learned along the way.
The tables have turned, and the silence just broke. For months, Jeannie Mai has been painting herself as the victim, the heartbroken wife blindsided by a cold, calculating Jeezy. But now, Jeezy's had enough. The calm, polished interviews are over. He's done watching her twist the story, done letting her play innocent while quietly feeding the blogs her side of things. Because according to people in Jeezy's camp, the real story isn't that Jeannie was betrayed, it's that she was exposed.
Loved black guys, yeah. I did. But for me, dark meat on the side, white keeps me mean and lean. You know, that's why I married white. Yeah, that's what I like.
That's the crazy thing though, because as I say at 46, I can tell you that,
Yeah.
but I can't honestly tell you that I've experienced love.
It all started when Jeezy's inner circle leaked that he's been sitting on receipts, texts, emails, even recorded conversations that allegedly proved Jeannie was never the naive, heartbroken wife she's pretending to be. Behind the polished Instagram posts and soft podcast quotes, Jeezy's saying she was playing a PR game from day one.
I swear, any woman who has been divorced, in that year, you have red flags if it's not going. We're grown, we're in our 40s. And what I think is that God somehow managed our timing so that we spent time after our long-term relationships. We both came from 10-year relationships. And we really worked on ourselves to really understand what healthy love is like.
And if that's true, then this whole poor Jeannie narrative just fell apart.
Jeezy and Jeannie are getting divorced, and he's the one that filed. And this isn't from like TMZ, this is from agency, Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
See, Jeezy stayed quiet when the divorce news hit. He didn't drag her. He didn't leak stories. He let her talk. But every time she went online dropping quotes about betrayal, heartbreak, and seeing people's true colors, she was reshaping the narrative, making him look like the cold-blooded villain.
You know, it was just always instances where I just knew that this wasn't gonna work out for me, right? So I had to figure out how to change without losing everything.
It worked for a while too. Fans flooded her comments with sympathy, while Jeezy was trending for all the wrong reasons. But then she slipped. Jeannie couldn't resist feeding into the attention. She started hinting that Jeezy used her for image, saying he wanted to look reformed, appear healed, and play the perfect husband for the cameras. But Jeezy's people fired back hard, saying it was Jeannie who saw him as the ultimate brand move, a man who could give her the credibility, relevance, and connection she'd lost after The Real got canceled. According to sources close to Jeezy, Jeannie's reputation in Hollywood wasn't what it used to be. Producers saw her as safe, but not bankable. Brands loved her family-friendly energy, but her career had stalled. Jeezy, he was a Grammy-nominated artist, a businessman, a philanthropist. He had power in rooms she didn't. Their marriage wasn't just love, it was leverage. That's the story Jeezy's camp is telling now. They say Jeannie approached that relationship like a rebrand. She wanted to be seen as classy, elevated, global. And being Mrs. Jenkins, the elegant wife of a hip-hop legend, was exactly the look. The image of balance, beauty meets grit. She leaned into it too. Every post, every interview, every quote was crafted. When she called him her safe place, when she said he made her believe in love again, Jeezy now says that wasn't vulnerability, that was strategy. But the twist, Jeezy says he played along because he thought it was mutual. He didn't know she was documenting their entire relationship like a script she could flip later. According to people who've seen the messages, Jeannie allegedly kept a private folder labeled Notes, filled with diary-style entries about their arguments, things she planned to use later if she ever needed to tell her side. And once the divorce papers hit, that folder became her weapon. Suddenly, every lesson, every quote about healing, every truth reveal on her socials matched those private notes word for word. Jeezy's not denying he filed for divorce first. What he's saying is why he filed. Because what Jeannie isn't telling anyone is that months before the split, their home had turned toxic. Not violent, not loud, manipulative. Jeezy reportedly told friends that Jeannie was obsessed with controlling the narrative. She wanted everything filtered, curated, aesthetic, from how they co-parented to how their marriage looked online. He couldn't even post without her approval. At first, he thought it was her being cautious. She'd been burned before. But after a while, he realized she wasn't protecting their love. She was protecting her image. Remember those family photo shoots that went viral? The matching pajamas, the luxury backdrops, the perfect co-parent captions? Jeezy says those weren't spontaneous moments. They were produced. Jeannie allegedly hired stylists, rented sets, and even scheduled lighting crews to create the illusion of domestic perfection, right when they were barely speaking off camera. And while Jeannie's been telling the world she was blindsided, Jeezy's team says that's another lie. She knew it was coming. The marriage had been over for months, but she refused to accept it. Sources claim Jeezy told her multiple times he wanted to separate, and every time she'd cry, promised to change, then turn around and act like everything was fine for the cameras. She didn't want the public embarrassment. She wanted to control who got to break the story. So when Jeezy filed without warning, she lost control. And that's when the narrative flipped. One insider described it like this: she wanted to be the one to end it, to say it was mutual, to sit down with People magazine and tell her version. But Jeezy beat her to it. So she turned him into the villain. And that's where the revenge campaign allegedly began. Those heartbreak quotes, those weren't random. Jeezy's people say Jeannie's team coordinated them with blog outlets. The moment she dropped a new emotional caption, gossip pages like The Shade Room were already posting her side of the story, framing Jeezy as cold and detached. They say it was calculated, a digital sympathy rollout to protect her brand. But Jeezy didn't take the bait. He stayed quiet. And that quiet, ironically, made him look guilty. Until now. Now, the new narrative is coming out piece by piece. Friends of Jeezy are saying he sacrificed his peace trying to make her happy, that he gave up time, opportunities, and focus just to maintain the image she wanted. He thought they were building something real. But looking back, he says he was just a prop in her reinvention arc. Even the baby, according to insiders, became part of the perfect woman storyline. Remember when Jeannie used to say she never wanted kids? That she didn't believe motherhood was for her? Jeezy's team claims she flipped that script once she saw the kind of attention the pregnancy brought. Suddenly, she was the glowing mother, the reformed wife, the woman who finally healed. It was beautiful for the public. But privately, Jeezy says it was emotionally exhausting. Every milestone became content. And when he stopped playing along, that's when she snapped. One friend of Jeezy's reportedly said he was tired of being handled like a client. She turned their marriage into a PR campaign. When he pulled back, she panicked. When he filed, she retaliated. Now that Jeannie's playing the victim publicly, Jeezy's image is taking hits again. But the people who know him say he's not out here trying to destroy her. He just wants the truth known. That's why he's quietly been telling his side through select interviews and carefully timed statements. The self-growth quotes weren't shade. They were warning shots. He's been giving her a chance to come clean before he does it for her. And here's the part the internet didn't see coming. Insiders say Jeezy's planning to release a documentary about life, lessons, and false love. Not a diss piece, not messy, but real. The doc's supposedly built around his evolution, how he learned the difference between public peace and private chaos. And fans are already speculating that Jeannie's name might not be said directly, but her presence will be all over it. So while she's out here posting quotes about being used for clout, Jeezy's quietly flipping the script, one truth at a time. Because according to his side, this wasn't a man who betrayed a good woman. It was a man who finally escaped a performance, a relationship that was picture perfect on screen but hollow behind the lens. And for the first time since the split, Jeezy's not staying silent anymore. By week 2, the internet had flipped upside down. For months, Jeannie Mai played the perfect role. The polished, heartbroken wife betrayed by a man who changed. But the moment Jeezy finally spoke, everything started to shift. Gone was the quiet restraint. He didn't yell, he didn't rant. He just sat down, calm and surgical, and peeled the mask right off the fairy tale. His tone was composed but cold. He made it clear that the picture people had seen, the healing couple, the perfect parents, was nothing more than a carefully curated illusion. And as soon as the clips hit the internet, people felt the shift. Jeannie's story stopped sounding like heartbreak and started sounding like performance. Blogs that once painted her as the victim began posting with hesitation. Something about his energy feels too confident for a guilty man, one fan wrote. The mood had changed. Jeezy didn't accuse, he explained. He said things went wrong long before the divorce papers. That communication had turned into content. What should have been private arguments became filtered quotes. He didn't name her. He didn't have to. Everyone understood. Then came the shocker. During the interview, he handed his phone to the host. No drama, no announcement, just a silent pass across the table. The host's reaction said everything. A long pause, wide eyes, then a quiet nod. That 30-second moment broke the internet. Nobody knew what was on the phone, screenshots, messages, maybe coordination notes with her PR team. But people suddenly started looking at Jeannie differently. Within hours, threads popped up analyzing the timing of her posts, matching her healing captions with blog rollouts that went live the same day. The puzzle pieces began to connect. By midweek, one of Jeezy's longtime friends went live and added fuel to the fire. He didn't sound angry, just tired. He described how Jeannie allegedly treated Jeezy like an accessory, not a partner. He said she micromanaged his image, corrected him in front of staff, and created an atmosphere where every moment had to be on brand. Fans started calling it toxic professionalism, love packaged for sponsorships. That single live stream did more damage than 1,000 interviews. It made people realize that while Jeannie had been winning sympathy online, behind closed doors, the vibe might have been very different. Then, photos from old family shoots resurfaced. The matching outfits, the perfect lighting, the effortless love everyone envied. Suddenly, those same images looked staged. Comment sections filled with people saying she was directing a campaign, not living a marriage. Jeezy never responded. No statements, no shade. He just reappeared publicly looking focused, grounded, even lighter. That calm silence, the same one people once called guilt, now looked like relief. Jeannie tried to keep control of the narrative. She posted a single photo, no caption, just a side profile in soft light. It was beautiful, but it didn't land the same way. The internet's sympathy was fading. Her followers noticed the tension in the comments, half defending her, half demanding answers. Then came a curveball. Her former publicist from The Real tweeted, briefly, before deleting, that the perfect wife image was always managed. That one line was enough to send gossip pages into a frenzy. Because if that's true, it means Jeannie's current heartbreak story might have been just another chapter in the same long play for image control. Meanwhile, Jeezy was in Atlanta at a community event, smiling for photos, shaking hands, no ring, no drama. The caption under a fan's photo of him went viral. Sometimes peace is the loudest comeback. At that point, the public mood had completely turned. Hashtags like #Team Jeannie started drying up, replaced by quieter comments like, maybe we judged him too soon. Even blogs that lived off Jeannie's heartbreak were now hedging their headlines, asking questions instead of preaching sympathy. What made it worse for Jeannie was how she reacted. Or rather, how she didn't. Every new graceful silence post came off less like maturity and more like avoidance. People could feel she was losing her grip on the story she'd built. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered that Jeezy still hadn't released everything he had, and that if he ever decided to, it would completely flip the conversation. The man she'd accused of coldness wasn't shouting. He was waiting, and the internet could tell something bigger was coming. The silence didn't last long. Once the calm settled, it became obvious that both sides were playing different games. Jeannie was still trying to control the story, smoothing it out with photo ops and poetic captions, while Jeezy had already moved on from defending himself to letting the truth breathe on its own. That's when everything started to unravel. It began quietly. A late-night podcast clip from someone who'd worked close to both of them during their so-called power couple era. They didn't name names, but everyone knew. The insider described how the marriage had turned into a content pipeline. Photo shoots scheduled to drop after emotional interviews, arguments rehearsed before red carpet events. It was business disguised as love, the host said. She knew what moments would trend. Fans couldn't believe it at first, but the more people revisited old posts, the clearer it became. Those authentic family moments weren't as spontaneous as they'd looked. They were timed, positioned, even branded. Then a leaked voice note hit the internet and changed everything. The clip was short, muffled, but one line was crystal clear. Jeannie's voice saying, "We have to protect the brand. He can't just leave and make me look like a fool." That was it. The whole heartbroken wife narrative collapsed in a night. Every blog reposted it, every fan debated it, and suddenly the sympathy she'd built turned into suspicion. The public realized they hadn't been watching Heartbreak. They'd been watching strategy. While her team scrambled to do damage control, Jeezy stayed completely silent. No posts, no denials, not even a subtweet. But then he dropped something bigger, a trailer. It was a teaser for his new documentary, short and simple. A montage of him walking through old Atlanta streets, holding his daughter, and reflecting on peace. The caption read, "You don't have to prove peace, you live it." It spread like wildfire. The trailer showed just enough to say everything. Blurred screenshots, timestamps that matched Jeannie's rollout schedule. Even side-by-side clips that suggested her quotes about healing were timed with certain blog posts. He didn't point fingers. He just let the receipts speak quietly. And that's what made it hit harder. People didn't see anger. They saw clarity. Suddenly, Jeannie's carefully curated serenity started looking like a performance that had finally run out of lines. Within days, her old publicist resurfaced online and hinted that the perfect wife persona was built long before the divorce, an image meant to soften her public reputation after The Real. She deleted the post minutes later, but the internet doesn't forget. Screenshots spread like wildfire. When Jeannie finally reappeared on social media, she looked composed but fragile. Black and white photos, minimal captions, all carefully neutral, but the energy wasn't calm. it was controlled. You could see the strain behind the aesthetic. Meanwhile, Jeezy was outside again, smiling, grounded, showing up to charity events with his daughter. No entourage, no attitude. One photo of him holding Monaco's hand during a children's book fair went viral with the caption, "Some people post peace, some people practice it." And that right there sealed the story. Every gossip site, every fan page, every commentary thread came to the same conclusion. Jeannie had tried to turn Heartbreak into a performance, but Jeezy had turned truth into silence. And silence won. Weeks passed, but the ripple didn't fade. Jeannie's engagement started dropping. Her audience lost patience with the mystery captions, and the same media outlets that once praised her grace started calling it image fatigue. Then, out of nowhere, Jeezy's documentary premiered. It wasn't angry, it wasn't messy, it was raw, childhood footage, family moments, reflections on trust, loyalty, and growth. There was no bitterness, just one subtle moment that everyone caught. Blurred papers sitting on a kitchen table dated months before the divorce went public. He didn't need to say what they were. The audience understood. The final shot showed Jeezy reading a storybook to his daughter, the skyline glowing behind them, his voice low and steady. "Real love don't need an audience," he said quietly, closing the book. That single sentence broke the internet more than any scandal ever could. Because it wasn't a diss, it was a full-circle statement. It was everything Jeannie had tried to package, delivered with none of the performance. From that moment, the story wasn't about who was right or wrong anymore. It was about who had learned the lesson first. Jeannie might keep posting quotes about peace, but everyone knows the truth now. Peace isn't found in a caption. It's found in how you move when nobody's watching. And Jeezy, he's already mastered that part. If you've ever watched someone perform happiness while you built yours in silence, then you already know how this one ends. Because when the show stops, the truth keeps talking. Like, comment and tell me in the comments, who do you think really came out stronger? Jeannie with the brand or Jeezy with the peace? Either way, one thing's clear. When the performance fades, the truth always gets the last word.